Excuse me! Taxi!
Come on, what are you doing? This is the 77 WABC minicast.
Joining us now is the great John Solomon, founder of Just the News. John, you always have the latest. What do you got today?
Well, let's start with a story that broke here a couple of days ago. The fallout from it is continuing by the day. We revealed on Monday that the intelligence community kept from President Trump's 2019 impeachment, the one that was over Ukraine and Joe Biden and Hunter Biden, incredibly exculpatory information to the president's defense team. They kept it from the Congress. They kept it from the president's defense lawyers. They kept it from the American people. The fact that the chief accuser, that alleged whistleblower from the CIA, actually didn't know anything firsthand. Secondly, had misled the investigators when he submitted his complaint against the president, actually told them something false. And third, had significant political biases. Over the last 48 hours since that bombshell hit the waves, the FBI said it is now looking and investigating it. The DNI is beginning to refer people for possible criminal prosecution because they may have withheld something from an official congressional proceeding. And a little while ago, we learned that the new Inspector General of the Intelligence Community, so the chief watchdog of the 18 spy agencies that make up our spy community, our intelligence community, he's opened an investigation into the handling of all the whistleblowers during the Biden-Obama years. That's a big deal because there are two or three things we now know happened. We now know a whistleblower came out of the intelligence community that had significant flaws. That whistleblower wasn't properly vetted, nor was the derogatory information about him sent to Congress for the impeachment. But we also know that whistleblowers who tried to bring evidence that China had been meddling in the 2020 election, they were suppressed. They were kept under wraps. They weren't allowed to tell their story to the president or Congress. The fact that the new Inspector General of the Intelligence Committee is looking at that, a big, big moment of transparency. And finally, you remember old Judge Boasberg, he comes up time and again as a poster child for Republicans of an overly activist, biased judge. Well, yesterday, the D.C. Appeals Court, the Federal Appeals Court in D.C., slapped him down in a big way, saying he exceeded his authority and had no right to try to open contempt proceedings against the Trump administration over their handling of immigration. Well, today, the fallout from that big ruling, that big slapdown, continued. Two senators in the Senate today are recommending that Judge Boasberg face impeachment proceedings in the Senate. Eric Schmidt from Missouri leading the call for that. Judge Boasberg has become an increasingly controversial figure, the sort of poster child in the debate over where the line for judges starts and ends for law and politics. But for a sitting senator to propose impeachment proceedings is a pretty significant escalation in this feud.
Yeah, that's a big deal. Judge Weinberg.
Yeah, I want to hear from the lawyers, Judge Weinberg and Governor Pataki.
Okay. John, it's good to talk to you again. So I'll tell you what's interesting about what you revealed about the exculpatory material that was known to the Congressional Committee. We had a conversation after you broke that with Alan Dershowitz, professor from Harvard Law School. And the conversation was, there may be an attempt to try to rescind the previous impeachment.
To expunge it, right?
Expunge it. And that's a very, very big deal. And would make constitutional history because that's never been done before.
That's exactly right. In fact, the president shared that very story, those very sentiments from Alan Dershowitz, who, by the way, was one of the president's defense lawyers. He was a Democrat that decided to defend the president in 2019 because he didn't believe there was grounds for impeachment. That's right. And so all eyes are on Mike Johnson. Mike Johnson is considering whether to take some form of action in Congress. We're trying to interview him. We'll find out soon where he stands on this. But pressure is going for the Congress to repudiate a finding of Congress that may have been based on misleading and false information, certainly incomplete information. So, as he often does, Alan Dershowitz spurs some pretty big thoughts.
Yeah, he sure does, Rudy.
John, this is Rudy Washington. One of the things that just really pissed me off is that you don't have to be a judicial genius to figure out that the executive branch cannot be stopped and told to bring planes back and bring
you're back to Boasberg?
Yeah, Boasberg. Back to the country. Bring the prisoners or the terrorists. Bring them back. I mean, that's silly.
Turn the plane around in midair and spin back to D.C.
Right. I'm telling the executive branch, the judicial branch telling the executive branch how to run the country.
But the audacity of that, Sean, that the overreaching, when you're a trial judge like I was, you know your place. You know what you're supposed to
Right.
do, and you know the limits of your authority. And as Governor Pataki and I were talking off camera.
And this guy's
we have to
exceeding
be
his
careful.
limits, as judge.
Absolutely possible that this could be a ground for impeachment.
Yeah, that would be amazing. And
And
that
by the
guy,
way, Eric Schmidt is a very smart guy. He's a former
Right.
Attorney General of Missouri.
and I want to remind everybody, Boasberg, when I think of Boasberg, he was the guy, remember, who said, oh, don't deport these terrorists back to their home countries. Keep them in America.
That's a good idea.
Yes.
Right.
That's a
Let,
good
them
idea.
commit let those terrorists commit another murder.
Yeah, I mean, what
They
kind
have
of
a
a judge says
constitutional right to commit as many
Right,
as
he
they can.
cared more about the terrorists than Americans.
John.
Governor Pataki, first thing we go to
John, thank you so much for what you've done with your investigations. The stuff that you turn up is just tremendously helpful. My concern, now you're talking about the possibility that Speaker Rogers might take up undoing the impeachment. The American people never get to hear this. You have to be reading some obscure journals to see the value of what you're uncovering. So the mainstream media is going to go, they're just trying to undo this because they're pawns of Trump. What can you or we do to try to get this more broadly dispersed?
Well, I have a funny feeling that the law enforcement community may be the next strike against us. I think after years and years of waiting for Godot, the imaginary figure of accountability, that there's about to be some indictments coming out of Florida, but led by the U.S. Attorney. I think on the line right now, they're making a decision on whether to charge John Brennan, whether to charge James Comey. And then I think some of these new things that we just revealed, when you don't provide exculpatory evidence to Congress, you may be obstructing the proceedings. You can be charged under a very serious felony for obstructing proceedings. And by the way, the statute of limitations starts when the discovery of the hiding it begins. So even though these are 6 years old, the statute might begin now because it was kept classified, so no one could know that this.
That's exactly right.
Crime.
That's good.
Yeah,
Good
it's a
lawyering
big
on your
moment.
part, Sean. Good for you. That's
Bravo.
exactly right.
I think
Bravo.
those things are what's going to happen, Governor. I do think that the law enforcement community, for the first time, is going to step to the plate, start making people pay for the things they did.
Well, keep us posted, John. Thank you very much. I know you got
Thank
Thank you,
something.
John
Thank
Solomon,
you.
and keep up the good news. Keep investigating. The American people have to know the truth.
I agree with you. Thanks
Thank you
for
so
your
much.
time on the show.